Everyone. I'm Brooke Kidd, the Executive Director of Joe's Moving Emporium. Art has always been a vehicle for change, increasing empathy, understanding, and giving a voice to the voiceless. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to join us this evening in our discussion about the sounds of voter suppression. When we hear that phrase, that title, the sounds of voter suppression, I'm reminded of Reverend C.T. Vivian on the steps of the courthouse in Selma, Alabama. The sound of Sheriff Bull Connor clubbing him with a baton and Vivian getting back up again. We are brought today in conversation with Professor Amy Gerber Stroh from Hollins University and Professor Heidi Gerber-Salins from Howard University, who are sisters. They have recently worked with film sound design students to collaborate on the sounds of voter suppression, which launches this Sunday on YouTube. As we head into elections, it is critical that we are reminded of the importance of voting and how hard our predecessors have fought for our right to vote. We are excited to be here with the Prince George's County Human Relations Commission and Prince George's County Memorial Library System. And now I'd like to introduce Renee Battle Brooks, the Executive Director of the Prince George's County Human Relations Commission.
Thank you so much, Brooke, and welcome everyone. We're very excited that you have joined us tonight for our third in the series, Voting, Democracy in Action. And tonight we are thrilled to have a little different take on this, and it's going to be very exciting to learn about this. We are going to be joined, as Brooke announced, students who collaborated between the two universities and the professors who did that as well. I also want to thank especially our partners, Joe's Movement Emporium and the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. So thank you. It should be a really fascinating hour together. Amy Gerber Stroh is an associate professor of film and chair of the film department at Hollins University. She also co-directs the graduate screenwriting and film studies program at Hollins. She received her MFA in film video from the California Institute of the Arts, and her films have won honors at numerous film festivals and professional venues. She also directed films for the Los Angeles County Museum of Art from 1993 to 1996. Gerber Stroh has had significant professional film experience in Hollywood and New York, working on several movie features by Roger Corman, as well as casting 12 major motion pictures, including The Mask of Zorro, Columbia Pictures, Golden Eye, MGM, Afterglow, Sony Pictures Classics, Tank Girl, United Artists, and Angels in the Outfield, Disney. Her latest film, Do Cell Towers Dream of Morse Code, 2019, has won honors at several film festivals this year. So welcome, Professor. We are also very pleased to be joined. Yes, we're also very pleased to be joined by her sister, Heidi Gerber-Salins. She has worked in the audio production field since 1990, while also serving as an audio production educator at a variety of institutions, including Howard University, the Levine School of Music, Howard Community College, American University, and Morgan State University. Her professional specialization is in acoustic audio engineering and production, with an emphasis on microphone theory and technique. Ms. Gerber-Salins holds an MA in communication from Johns Hopkins University and is a published scholar and experienced writer. She has owned and operated All Access Audio, a recording studio and communications firm since 2001, building on her work as an audio engineer and producer at Bias Studios in Springfield, Virginia from 1991 to 2001. Her work has earned Grammy Award nominations, New York Festival Radio Awards, and iParenting Best Products Media Award, 2 Parents' Choice Awards for work with the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and multiple Washington Area Music Association Award nominations. So we're pleased to have Professor Heidi Gerber-Salins.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Also joining will be 3 students. So the first that we will announce is Anya Holland. Anya Holland is a senior film major at Hollins University and the current president of its film department. We're also pleased to be joined by Nyjah Packer. She's a junior TV and film major at Howard University and is currently an aspiring screenwriter. Although writing is her main passion, she also enjoys producing and directing content such as short PSAs on voter suppression. She is based in Atlanta, Georgia, but is staying in the Metropolitan District of Columbia area for the semester. So welcome, Nyjah. We're also pleased to have with us Jasmine Evans Samuels. She is a junior TV and film major with a theater arts minor from Howard University. She is utilizing her artistic skills in her studies and has found a passion for creating and telling stories. She continues to expand her portfolio of short films, scripts, artwork, and digital design. Jasmine is a passionate filmmaker, video editor, digital artist, and an aspiring film director and producer. So welcome, everyone. We are going to take a moment to see two short clips, and I'm wondering if maybe, Anya, if you want to introduce your clip. No pressure, you don't have to if you don't want to, and the same, Jasmine, if you want to introduce your clip.
I would be happy to have it speak for itself, and I can talk about it more afterwards.
Okay, thank you. And Jasmine, would you like to introduce your clip?
The same for me. I would just like everyone to see it and definitely talk more about it afterwards.
Outstanding, thank you. So we will have Nick, our awesome partner with the library and COO, cue that for us. And again, this is part of the Sounds of Voter Suppression project that they collaborated on.
Although it is a crime for non-citizens to vote in federal elections, most states have no procedures in place to prevent it from happening. To demonstrate that non-citizen voting is a real and relevant threat to the elections process, I will offer for inclusion in the record a release from the Department of Justice that details multiple prosecutions they have brought against non-citizens.
There were a large number, not just in my district, but in your district as well, of people who were not American citizens who, by virtue of motor voter flaws, were able to vote, to cast votes. That is unacceptable. That dilutes the votes of people who are American citizens who are registered to vote. So we must do something about that.
There's no person who is qualified to register to vote who cannot get a photo ID. One of the most important requirements for eligibility to vote is citizenship. H.R. 1 requires states to maintain online voter registration with no safeguards. They can simply upload electronic signatures without any validators.
Any individual can pick up any voter's name for any reason and deliver it to the polling place. Report of my motor voter
completely
task force
unchecked.
into the registration point as part of my presentation of this bill.
They don't have to be American citizens. Why would we force states to allow people who aren't even eligible?
But this policy of burdening our nation with troublesome proof of citizenship requirements is not the direction our committee or the country should be heading. Instead, we should be looking at the real fraudulent acts of past federal elections. Voting intimidation, threats, and other forms of voter suppression are still disenfranchising citizens of this country. If we are to discuss voter fraud, we should include these issues, which are paramount to many Americans, especially people of color.
That was wonderful. Wonderful. I think before we get into the discussion, though, I think we're going to show Jasmine's. Okay. All right, I'm just reading the notes there. So we're waiting for the download. So let's talk about the first clip then, or maybe this is actually for anyone to answer about both projects or both clips. What was the genesis of this project?
Maybe Heidi and I can, do you want like the overall thing or for just this clip?
So let's start with the overall thing, and then I definitely want to, but I want to set the stage, give a little background.
Heidi, do you want to? I have to give credit for the collaboration to my sister Heidi, who absolutely, was thinking. We've been wanting to collaborate for a long time, but we thought we're at two institutions that I think really want to research and create things around a topic like this, like voter suppression. Hollins University is a all-women's institution for undergraduate school. We have co-ed graduate school, but it's the 100-year anniversary of women's suffrage. Hollins is all about equity, diversity, and justice. That's part of our mission. And I thought Heidi came up with a great idea for our classes to come together and get two different perspectives. We're definitely from the women's rights perspective. We wanted to get African American perspective on voter suppression, and see how we could blend sort of our creative work together. Do you want to add something to that, Heidi?
Well said. And I guess what I'd like to add to that is at Howard, we live by a mission statement, basically, of truth and service. And to find truths in our society, especially the ones that are difficult, often we have to look under the surface and try to tell stories that are difficult but important. So it's thrilling to work with Amy and her students as well as our students at Howard, because we're combining visual and auditory stimuli to tell these stories. And right now, in the time of the pandemic, I wanted to find a new way to bridge gaps between communities and get students, especially who may not otherwise get to meet each other and know each other. It was a great opportunity to just step outside of our classroom and take advantage of reaching across the miles and telling a story that we're all in agreement is important, but tell it in a new way. So what a great chance to do something slightly different this time.
Yes. So now let's talk about this clip. Talk to me about how this actually came into being.
So for this particular project, the part that I worked on, so we were all, as students, encouraged to just come up with ideas collectively and on an individual basis about what does voter suppression sound like. We're sound design classes, so it was coming from a sound perspective. And one of the first things that I came to when I was thinking about what sound design or what voter suppression sounds like was the political process and the readings that we had done to gain some context and some more understanding about voter suppression. I really got a sense that efforts that have been made in Congress to help people vote, to make it easier to vote, to eliminate voter suppression, get caught up and sidelined and are not passed. And I thought a sound is just like that, the stalling in this political process. And that led me to looking at different clips from kind of various points of time. Most of these are some are from 2019, some 2020, a couple were from early 2000s, like 2008, 2004. And as I was listening and watching, I just noticed that many times arguments against bills that would put an end or help reduce issues of voter suppression used the idea of non-citizen voting as a reason to not make it easier. And I'm not a citizen, as I said in that. And personally, I think that non-citizens should vote. Like, we live here, we're affected, we pay taxes. I think that that's something that should happen. Not everyone's going to agree with that, but I noticed that that there was this xenophobia and this fear mongering around immigrants that allowed these bills to get stalled or to not pass, or to, even if they were passed, to kind of be like, they're bad. And so that's really how I came to the idea of it, and trying to find this theme around that, like that this xenophobia is an excuse to further harm people who do have the right to vote, citizens and stuff like that.
So talk to me, I'm a musician, so talk to me about what your thought process was for selecting the music, and how that audio part.
So this was a bit of a process trying to find the right underlying audio to go under all of this noise, this political noise. And I realized that for me, I felt like I wanted to have something related to the idea of immigrants and leaving your country, coming to a new place. And I feel like when we think about people leaving their place behind and coming somewhere new, what often they're able to carry with them from their culture is their voice and their song and music. And so I just put this together. I just had a tune in my head and I put it together. This music, I created the harmony here. And I wasn't like trying to evoke any specific, culture or anything like that, but I thought like this unison of voices, this mix of voices carried this idea of like, I hope that it would convey a sense of the immigrants, such like that.
So your thought process, was it even down to the minutia of, I want something that's a cappella versus instrumental?
Yeah, definitely wanted something a cappella, because I do feel like I was thinking about people having to, especially because when people talk about non-citizens, they're not talking about me. I'm a Canadian, I'm white. They're not talking about me voting. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about, in particular, illegal immigrants usually is the fear. They're talking about people coming from Latin America, or the Middle East, real foreigners, people who are scary. And when I think of, especially in recent times, people, especially refugees coming from Latin America and walking in like the caravans, what do you carry with you? And you're not maybe necessarily going to have instruments. So that's what the a cappella was about. Just what do you have? What can you carry? And what you can carry is what's kind of within you.
That's beautiful. What did you, so I'm going to be your professor. What, if anything, did you learn from this project? There's no pressure. It's just the person that grades you, but don't let that bother you.
No, I mean, I learned a lot just from a research standpoint, just seeing how, I was not aware of how much the xenophobia impacted all these other elements of our voting process. I wasn't aware of the fact that the fear of non-citizens voting was what was the excuse to suppress the vote of minorities and college students and certain and people with disabilities and so on and so forth. People that, especially there's particular fear of people who might be voting more Democrat than Republican is usually what's happening here. And so I didn't know any of that. And then I also learned a lot about just putting sound first and trying to think about the story, not even just from a voting suppression standpoint, but just as a film major. It's so important. I hadn't realized how important it was to consider the way that sound impacts your film, and that building something with a sound emphasis first, thinking about sound before you think about visuals, just taught me a lot about how to think about projects in the future.
Yeah. I mean, as a layperson, really, the sound makes the movie or the clip or whatever. It really does. Turning it down and reading lips does not have the impact. So yeah. So we're going to come back to that. I think we're ready. So.
Hello, I need you.
That's also excellent. Excellent. So let's start again from the macro level, and so for this second clip, what was the genesis? What was the thought? Why? And you touched on it a little bit, but maybe a little bit more specific with this.
So for my clip, my thought process in the beginning was my focus was on mail-in voting and mail-in ballots. And that's why I framed my video based around the mailbox, as you could see from the beginning and the end. And I just wanted to emphasize the controversies and issues regarding the current presidency and mail-in voting in the United States Postal Service, because I think it is an issue that's not emphasized enough. And the clips in between the mailbox all share a common factor, which is the recent civil unrest in the US and the vitality of Black Lives Matter and of human rights in general. And I really wanted my sound to be a key component in expressing the emotion in this video, although it's very silent, it's very organic sound based. I wanted to use the crowd chanting and the crowd noise to be almost like the musical direction of this piece. So voice, both technically and metaphorically, are key in the message sent regarding voter suppression. It's saying that the changes in intensity with the crowd noise being the forefront of the sound to the background of the sound, it's still there, and it's still very, very present, these voices, these protesters. And the unfortunate fact of the matter with the state of our country right now is that there's so many issues regarding mail-in voting, and that's taking away a large demographic of people who don't have the tools to go out and travel and vote and do those things. So matters like everything that was framed in my video are what is suppressing the voter's voice. And I wanted to illustrate that mail-in voting is a lot more complex than we realize. So within that vote and within that mailbox lies everything that you saw in the video. So change really only happens when the voices are actually seen and heard.
That is really good. I do love the way the camera moved in, opening it and then, yeah. So I also love the way that you talk about the voices are the music, right? Yeah. That is the soundtrack, and that's so important from the sounds of the city life that I heard and the, just the different things that you incorporated. Well, why did you, and I'll come back to Anya as well for the same question, but why, generally, why did you decide to major in this?
I chose to major in film because I personally have a very heavy passion for film, and I realize how big of an impact sound has on film. And growing up, one thing that was unfortunate that I think a lot of people who look like me, who are people of color, who are Black, who live in America, and honestly all over the world, have that experience, that one moment when they're a child where they're like, I don't see anyone who looks like me on a screen, on whether it be their favorite films or TV shows. And so me personally, I chose to major and do the path that I'm doing now because I want to tell stories from these perspectives, because we are no longer struggle stories. We can be in the fantasy and the adventure and that sort of thing. So that is a very big driving force for me.
Wonderful. And Anya, the same question. Why this major?
I've always liked storytelling. And like I've gone through sort of different stages in my childhood of what I wanted to do creatively. Like originally I wanted to be a writer, and then I wanted to be an actor. And I've realized that ever since I was a kid, like I would always turn on like the behind the scenes footage of films, and I would watch it, and I was so fascinated by it, and I would watch it over and over again, even if I'd seen it a million times before. And I sort of realized that just was what I wanted to be involved in. I wanted to be a part of bringing stories to life. That was what felt really important to me, just like something that like drove me as a passion. And that's kind of how I fell into this major. I originally came to Hollins from a film studies perspective, wanting to just examine films critically. And part of our major here is you have to take a video production class, and I took my video production class, and I also knew I liked video production, but then when I took the class, it's like, oh no, this is definitely where I'm staying. It was really fun, and I love Amy so much. Like that's the key reason. Our faculty are amazing though, and they are one of the. I mean, all the faculty at Hollins are amazing. I'm not going to single anybody out, but our department faculty are particularly amazing, and one of the reasons that our department is so wonderful. And yeah, that's really why I
Okay, you get
I was going to say, Professor Amy, are you listening? That's extra credit.
Yeah.
So I want to pose the same question actually for Nyjah. First of all, why this major? And then tell us about your collaboration with this project.
Yes. So in terms of the major, I think I've always just been interested in film. I love it as an art form. And so being able to create it is like, it doesn't even seem like it should be a job. It feels like something that's a hobby, but you can actually make a living off of it. So that's pretty much why I'm a TV and film major. I think for this project, unfortunately, we couldn't show my video, but the general narrative of it was trying to show how like the ideas about voter suppression in the media, like on social media and the news, are almost so overwhelming to people that in itself is almost a form of voter suppression. So sort of what I showed, I had this narrative where it was me in the video. It was a young person who was like watching the news and consuming these clips and going on the internet and reading these articles. And, you know, it was Donald Trump talking about how mail-in voting was going to be a huge disaster this year, and how there was going to be so much fraud, and how he was encouraging people to double vote, like mail-in vote and then go to the polls and see if they get caught. And then all these articles about the things that Trump has done to sort of, you know, stifle USPS, and just the difficulty that it's been in 2020 to go out and vote. And so the idea at the end, there was like a clip of this absentee ballot on the counter, and the protagonist like looks at it and kind of just throws it aside because they're like, they don't even want to try to vote anymore because they're kind of like, my vote's not going to count. All this stuff is going on. Like, it's not going to matter. And that's like, my idea was that it's what Trump, that's what I highlighted. It's what he wants. He wants people to not go out and vote. He wants people to feel like their vote doesn't count. So that's what I wanted to portray.
Wonderful. So I want to ask all three of our young students, what one thing would you say to convince a peer to register and vote? Okay, maybe two things, but.
I mean, I would just say, I can't vote, so do it for me. Like, please. Like, I'm not able to do it. You know, there are lots of other people who aren't able to do it. You are able to. Please go do it. So that's the one thing I would say. If I become a citizen, which I'm trying to do, I'll think of something else.
Okay.
Maybe I'll go to other people.
I'm going to answer a different way in a couple of minutes, so you have time still. Jasmine.
I think I would say when you have those moments and you see what's on the news and you're angry or afraid, put that towards your vote. Like let that energy be put towards that in that voice.
Excellent. So, and Naija?
Yeah. I would say vote so that you don't look back and regret it. Like if the elections have turned out how you want, you don't want to look back and say, I could have, changed it by voting.
Yeah, so important. So I want to hear a little bit about the behind the scenes. So, this can be each of you saying something, but really take us back as if you're the camera and describe and explain sort of the whole collaborative process or how it was done to a neophyte, somebody who's not in this industry, doesn't understand. So kind of walk us there. Describe it. From beginning to end, maybe. So somebody, so the idea has been given birth. And then from there, how does it progress to, this end product? What are the steps? The joys, the frustrations, the challenges, the miracles.
Do you want to hear about like the whole project as the whole collaborative process, or just like from an individual level? Because I think, Amy and Professor Gerber-Salins, I just want to take point on this for the collaboration and the.
Yeah, actually, whatever part of this snapshot you want to give, just give us the context so we understand which side you're talking on, or both.
Oh, did you want us, Heidi? Did you want Professor Gerber-Salins and I to talk, or?
Oh, sure, because you guys can set it up. And, yes, please.
Right.
It is a challenge for all of us.
Well, I think there were some logistical things to consider because of us being all spread out. That's one thing. During the pandemic, we can't really physically meet. Also, unfortunately. Professor Gerber-Salins was struck by a drunk driver 2 weeks into the process and was unable to continue teaching. So, it's actually, it made it even harder for us to collaborate just because of this unfortunate occurrence. But I'm very proud of both Howard and Hollins for sticking with this project and thinking about how they feel as individuals in terms of voter suppression and express it in their own way, and making each video their own standalone piece. And then as we get to Sunday, when we make our drop, it'll be 3 p.m. on this Sunday. We will put it in a particular order and displayed it as an entire project together. So that's sort of the logistics behind it. Would you like to add to that?
Well, the other kind of interesting thing is that these two classes met on the same day of the week. However, we were off by about a half an hour, and students often have other classes they need to rush off to, even in the virtual world. So we're trying to think, how can we have everybody just get together all at the same time? And so we invited students to each of our class meetings, but we used a sharing platform where students could post their progress and ask for some feedback from their own classmates as well as classmates from the other school. And that seemed to work nicely, especially for, our students are quite often familiar with posting and commenting on social media. So it seems like a natural place to have that kind of exchange.
So somebody talk to me maybe a little bit more in depth about maybe some of the challenges from everyone being dispersed on a personal level.
I mean, I think it was a little disappointing that we couldn't work together on like the films directly. Like it's kind of ended up being we all made our projects, but I think it would have been really cool to actually like brainstorm with each other and like film together and like split up the work, that kind of collaborative thing. So we did miss out on that, which was upsetting, but I think in the circumstances.
So how important is the brainstorming part of this? Is that, I mean, I would think it's very important, but do you think that it allowed for more sort of introspection? I don't know.
I mean, I would agree. I think us being remote, it does take away a little bit of the collaborative aspect that we would have had if we were in person. But as a result, it kind of also made us look into ourselves of how do we personally feel about voter suppression. I think that was a question that came up a lot in class, is like, what does voter suppression sound like? What does it feel like? So I think that was an interesting way to approach this project that I probably wouldn't have if we were in person. So it's like the pro and con, but I do like the results I think that we've produced so far.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought someone was saying something. Nope. So Nyjah got away from answering this question, but what did you learn? I thought I would.
Honestly, this project was a little challenging for me. This is my first like audio focused class, so I definitely struggled trying to figure out how to integrate the audio in a way that was going to push my narrative forward. So I had to be really creative with that, and I had to think about that a lot more than I usually would. So I think I definitely learned how different sounds will affect like emotion and mood in a project, which I think is really important. So I'm appreciative that I got that challenge, that hurdle.
So, so you said, I mean, I'm summarizing that, I guess in a way you became more aware of the power of the audio. Anybody else have that same? Yeah. So, so technical difficulties, I think everyone has said the challenge perhaps was the distance and not being able to brainstorm in the same space, perhaps. Any other sort of technical challenges?
Well, I think something that was kind of funny was the sharing platform that we used. Initially, the only way to reply to one another was sending back video comments, and all of us were like, we don't want to do that. So like, I thought it was just really funny that we're all film and video production and film and TV majors or students, and we were like, but when we have to communicate with one another that way, it's a little scary. But I do think that was a little bit of a challenge, that we didn't have a chance to get to know one another really too well, just because, like Professor Gerber-Salins, Professor Gerber Stroh mentioned, classes were just slightly off from one another, so it was hard to find times to meet with one another. And I think that was, a bit of a disadvantage, that we just didn't get a chance to get to know one another in the same way. Hollins was lucky. Students have a choice of being in person or online, and most of the students in our class are in person. Hollins is doing so good so far, knock on wood, about for COVID cases, we don't have any. But from a Hollins perspective, because for the most part we were in person, we got to collaborate with one another. I do find that being able to get feedback from my peers was really helpful. In the process, because I don't know, personally, I have so much to do that like when I finished my film, if I would probably have just like walked off and kept working on different things. And so having to have someone look at it and give me feedback helped me look back at it and go, oh, there was a problem. I know in an early draft of mine, I had a low like guitar tune underneath it. It was this guitar string that was my audio. And Professor Gerber Stroh said, that sounds like there's an audio issue. It kind of sounds like the sound that you have from the politicians is wrong. And I wouldn't have noticed it at all if she hadn't pointed it out. So I'm lucky that I had this.
I don't know if it was wrong. I think it was just, it wasn't working how you had planned it to work. And so the neat thing about this, and I'm sure this happened at Howard as well, is that there's a resiliency of doing this sort of work. It's really hard. What Nigel was saying is that you can keep working on it and you think you have it done, but then you have to start from the drawing board again and come up with something that makes it even better. So even way up until the end, I think we were even looking at Anya's piece again today, or maybe a couple days ago, and still making sure, what can we even do that makes it even better. So it's being willing to keep working on your creative piece and survive it.
Right. So we're going to go around, and I want everyone to tell me sort of one thing to celebrate that came from this project, whether it's, learning something or it impacted somebody that previewed it, or it could be anything. One thing to celebrate. And don't you hate questions like this? I do too, but I don't have to answer it. But, it seems like this was an amazing journey that everyone took, separate but together. So it's kind of the symbol of COVID. We're separate, but we're together. So I'm sorry, Jasmine, it looked like you wanted to say something.
I was going to say, I think maybe one thing to celebrate would be how different everyone's videos are, because I am excited for everyone to see all of the classes' work put together, because there is character in each clip that was edited. And I know that everyone overcame different kinds of challenges putting those together. I know me personally, a majority of my footage in the center is licensed from Pexels, the free stock footage site. And so there was a challenge there for me in that I wasn't able to go out and film myself because of the current situation. So I had to kind of bend and work around that. And you can see how everyone still produced something really, really nice and quality despite that. So I think what can be celebrated is everyone's individual character.
That's really beautiful. Who wants to go next?
I think for me, just in the process of creating the video, I was researching a lot. I was going through all these news clips, going through all these articles, and I learned more about voter suppression in the week span of me making a video than I had in all my years of schooling, and the downside to that is I realized how bleak everything seems and how, potentially disastrous a situation we're in. But I think it's better to be educated and informed. And I really appreciate this project for being able to do that for me in a hands-on way.
Yeah, but resilience. I think Professor Amy talked about that. Resilience is key to life, and it's key to this moment. We can't let others break us down. So there's always sunrise after the evening, after the night. There always is. So we have to remember that. So who else wants to? And that's everybody, professors included. So something to celebrate.
Well, I want to celebrate first and foremost that my sister is with me today.
Yes.
I'm so happy she survived this terrible event that she went through. But also, I'm so thankful that Heidi was able to come up with this idea and share some sort of collaboration with me and to share her students with me, because I get energy from her students and of course my students, and I'm very, very thankful for that. They're our future. We have to nurture them. We have to love them. And this work we're all doing is very important.
That's, so true. So true. Who's next?
But I am the lucky one. I have a wonderful professor sister who can understand my challenges and triumphs as a teacher and a researcher. But this story at least our sisterhood goes back quite a long ways. Amy has always been the camera girl, and I've always been the microphone girl. And to find an opportunity to bring together our students, whom we love dearly and we want to nurture, I think, as Amy said, that's a thrill and something to celebrate. But also I wanted to say, just from an audio professor's standpoint, audio is quite often second in line to visual production. And I'm thrilled to see and hear proof of the students' sensitivity to sound and what it can do to shape an important narrative, especially one that's very important around our emotional state. I'm hoping that because our students did spend the time to pay close attention to how sound worked for their pieces, that they also are aware of how sound affects them and their ability to sort through the world's difficult issues and transform the power of sound to their advantage and to the good of our communities and the things we need to address.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Absolutely. Did everyone answer the question? Aha, thank you, Anya.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like what everyone has said is very true about like did this come from the project. I think that there's a couple things for me that am I freezing?
No.
It looks like I'm freezing. I'm so sorry. Okay, great. Yeah, I think that just I got to learn a whole lot, not only about voter suppression, but also just about sound. And I got to learn a lot from my classmates and from the students at Howard. There's definitely a strong diversity of voices and diversity of approaches to voter suppression. On the topic of it, we have people covering it from talking about voter suppression as it relates to an American context, as it relates to different minority groups within the United States. We have people looking at voter suppression outside of the United States. So it was just really interesting. I just learned a lot that I hadn't known previously. So that was really the big thing I took away from it, the big positive.
Excellent. And I realized that we didn't ask the two professors what led them to this field of study and now, the amazing things that you're using this in. We'll flip a coin.
Go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
Oh, what led us to being in film?
Yeah, because I asked the students, why did they choose, this major?
I guess I was just a camera geek when I was 12 years old. So I've been making films since I was a kid, and then kept going to film school for almost too many years. And,
is there such thing?
And then fell into teaching. I was a professional sort of in Hollywood, and I had the chance to teach. I really fell in love with it, and just really, really happy that I'm doing both. I make films and teach.
Excellent. And
there's a number of reasons I think I fell into audio. I love music. I'm a musician, and I always thought it was a miracle that you could hear something that had just happened and you could listen to it over and over again. Our grandfather on our mother's side was one of the first Black hymn radio operators in the world.
Yeah.
He got his license in 1918, and he had microphones and a bunch of dials and lights on his desk, and it looks a lot like my desk. He kind of made us comfortable with the fun, the creativity that comes with the technology that was available. But sound, like I said, to me is miraculous and powerful in so many ways. And I I don't have enough time to do all of the research to answer all of my questions. I'll never run out of questions with regard to audio, but that's what we have our wonderful students here for. They're going to help us answer the questions and do all the right things with sound and image.
That's wonderful. So just a little side trip. One of my brothers, his father-in-law is a huge ham operator enthusiast, has been for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you have to tell me your grandfather's name because I'm going to tell him, well, I know somebody who. So
yes, William B. Gould III.
William B.
Gould.
Oh, Gould the Third.
Gould. Gould the Third.
L.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm working on a documentary about William B. Gould the First. Heidi's going to be helping me with the sound on that. Anya was a research on it. It's about him escaping slavery during the Civil War. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, I cannot wait. I actually had a little preview over the summer. Anya is an honorary HRC, Human Relations Commission employee.
Perfect.
She helped us out a lot before you guys took her back to Hollins. So we've got a few short minutes, but one question. For anybody that would embark on something similar, that is collaborating from a distance and working on a social justice issue, what tips? So one tip from everyone. What tip would you give to maybe make their journey smoother? Like, don't do that, or
I guess I would just say, research, like look for, and be open to a different opinion. Because when I started my little piece of this bigger project, I wasn't looking at it from a non-citizen perspective. And so having my mind changed as I was researching. So I think consult a variety of sources. Don't just assume because it's something that matters to you that you know everything about it. And I think that can be sometimes the danger, is that you're like, oh, I care about this issue, so I can talk about it. That's not always the case. You have to look, you have to find more, you have to learn more, you have to hear other voices, you have to get different perspectives. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, regardless of what you're doing, but definitely if you want to, put something about social justice or a cause that's important to you, represent it in an artistic manner. I mean, unless the point is, this is about me and my particular relationship with it. But.
Excellent. Nyjah.
I think passion is really important. I think you kind of just have to find that small little area where it really, really connects with you, and then just go from there. Don't go broad, go as specific as you possibly can, and like make it your own.
Wonderful. Jasmine.
I would have to agree with Anya about research, because you have to definitely, this is coming from me as a film major who is more in the creative entertainment perspective. Research was definitely something that cannot be neglected when you pursue this type of direction with your storytelling. And so I learned a lot about voter suppression that I definitely didn't know before.
Excellent. And Professor Heidi.
I would always urge anyone endeavoring in the creative work to pursue truth and to not stop, to be relentless, because truth, it relates to some of what I've just heard about, looking at different viewpoints and doing research. That's all a part of truth, but telling the story of the truth is hard. And we talk about going over a project and trying to make it better and better. And it's like good writing. Have I said what I needed to say and what I meant to say? because the truth will reveal itself if you clearly articulate what you have discovered and what you need to say. So that's what I would probably want to share.
Wonderful. Professor Amy.
Boy, these are tough questions.
Thank you. I mean, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think I everybody said such great stuff, but I would just say follow your heart, you know, with these topics, and finding truth is part of that. But you know, doing it, finding your heart, but making sure you keep your amazing questioning and searching and exploring. You know, that goes into you know, creativity, and just how you hold yourself every day that you live on this earth. It's just you know, trying to be true, like what Heidi was saying, in a smart way, in a responsible way.
Excellent. And Professor Amy shared her project that she is wrapping up. And I do hope sincerely that you will come back and we can talk about that and show some of the clips. Yep. And bring the entourage and the crew. And is there anyone else, Professor Heidi, because we do have to wrap up, something coming up that you'd like to share for us to watch out for?
Physical therapy.
Yes.
but it's funny because of the pandemic, I experienced my world narrowing somewhat. Yeah. And my escape was like just driving and going to the grocery store, basically, because that's the only place that, but and with the injury, my world seemed to narrow further. But as some of the students have said tonight, that's an opportunity to look inward. So please stay tuned. Something, I hope, creative and meaningful will come from this unusual time.
Oh, I'm sure. So please announce when, where it will drop, and if there's a particular address that people can go to so we can see this on Sunday. But please do the commercial. Anyone?
Yeah. I think what you see scrolling down there is the Hollins University site. I will get probably a Howard site as well up there, so both schools can have it dropped at the same time. It's 3 p.m. this coming Sunday, October. What is October? October.
I think it's the 25th.
Okay, sorry. And
look here.
We'll just put it there, and you can view it as many times as you'd like. And please feel free to leave your comments and things like that. We'd love to hear from how people how it's received. We want to hear from our audience. So looking forward to it on the Hollins Film YouTube site this Sunday.
Excellent. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending this hour, all of us together, to learn. I learned a lot. It's too late for me to go back to school and try something different, but this would have been intriguing. Never thought about film, audio, the whole thing in terms of as a career, but this is awesome. And so I want to thank everyone that tuned in, and I hope that that you learned something, and more than that, that you will, if you haven't, go and vote and tell 10 people, take them, go vote. So Nick, I turn it back to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone on behalf of the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. Thank you to Joe's Movement Emporium, all of our wonderful artists and educators, both from Hollins University and Howard University, and of course our very special friends at the Prince George's County Human Relations Commission, Executive Director Renee Battle-Brooks and Kyla Hannington, the Outreach Coordinator. We get to spend almost every weeknight together nowadays, which is pretty awesome. We're in like free university together, which is delightful. We have a few more events coming up in the next 2 weeks because we just don't stop here between HRC and the library. So I'd love to invite everyone to join us for a few very special upcoming programs. On Tuesday, October 27th at 7:00 p.m. We'll be continuing our series, The Elephant We Don't See, a diversity dialogue, which Kyla and my colleague Michelle Hamiel from the library host. Next week's discussion will focus on Beverly Tatum's landmark book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And then on Wednesday night, October 28th at 7 o'clock, we'll have our next monthly virtual open mic event hosted by Brenda Bunting. The theme will be commemorating and honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And beyond that, on November 1st at 8 o'clock p.m., we have Obama inaugural poet Richard Blanco joining us. He's the first Latinx and first LGBTQ poet to serve as inaugural poet, so we're very excited for that. And then on November 5th, we have Kendra Allen, who is a rising literary star who won the Iowa Prize for her collection of essays, When You Learn the Alphabet. And she comes with great recommendation of Kaisi Lehman, who is, of course, a great contemporary essayist as well. And because we couldn't stop there, well, the election happens, so somewhere in there we'll get through that, maybe by December. Then on November 17th, we have distinguished NEA Literature Fellow Randall Horton joining us to discuss his work and poetry. And on Thursday, November 19th, former U.S. Poet Laureate Natasha Trethewey will join us, along with Prince George's County Poet Laureate Sister Joy Alford. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. I encourage everyone to check out pgcmls.info/events. We have events all day, every day. For example, tonight we had a discussion of romance novels, which are fabulous. Not quite about voting, but if you want to go catch that, check it out on our YouTube at pgcmls. We are grateful to all of you for being a part of our community tonight, whether you're tuning in from here in the county or anywhere else. I think our Hawaii crowd was here tonight, and probably some of the Canadians who are our international groupies, which we appreciate. Please make sure that you have a library card. This is just going to be I'm just going to leave it there. Engaging with your library is a very important part of civic life. We are here to provide free, trustworthy, and vetted access to all the information and resources that you might need. We don't claim to have the answers to everything, but we know how to get you to the right resources and services among our extended network. So if you don't have a library card with us, please visit pgcmls.info to sign up for that. You do not have to be a county resident to get that virtual library card. So anyone that lives in DC or Virginia, you can get it too. And we have our own ebook collection. We have the best ebook and audiobook collection in the whole DMV area, and the hold times are very low compared to DC and the other jurisdictions. So check it out. And if you want to know umpteen other library hacks, you can email me any time of day. I also answer the Twitter account, so you can find me on there. pr@pgcmls.info would be the email. And that's going to be it for my PSAs. Thank you all for indulging. We appreciate you, and stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.